Hello, everyone. Welcome. We'll be starting in a few seconds as everyone connects to webinar. Hi, everyone. Welcome. My name is Amanda Mills. I'm one of the Assistant Directors of Undergraduate Admissions, and we're very happy that you've joined us for the Atmospheric Science Major Faculty Q&A with Michael French, and we're very lucky to have current student John here as well to answer your questions after a brief presentation. We are more than welcome to answer your questions, and you can use the Q&A to post questions that you have, and then we will get to those shortly. And while we won't necessarily be discussing general admission requirements, you're more than welcome to post questions you have in the Q&A, and Lauren and Cameron behind the scenes will try to answer any of those that we can for you. If you haven't had an opportunity to do so, or if you'd like clarification on our admission process, please attend one of our other virtual sessions, a live virtual information session, where a counselor and a student from admissions will review the application process, deadlines and policies, and provide details about student life, living on campus, student support, and much more. I'll post some of the links for those and previously recorded sessions in the chat for you to bookmark for later in a bit. And now please join me in welcoming Associate Professor of Atmospheric and Oceanic Sciences, Michael French.
All right, thanks, Amanda. Thank you, everyone, for joining us tonight. It's great to be here. As Amanda said, I'm an associate professor in the School of Marine and Atmospheric Sciences. I've been here since 2015 now, so I guess this is my 10th year, which is amazing and scary. But so I'm just going to give a brief, hopefully very brief overview of our program, just to kind of ground everything, and then really the time is for you all, so that you have the opportunity to ask me or John or the other wonderful folks we have here any questions that you have about our program and this process. So, all right, so I'm just gonna run through a couple of things about our program quickly. So again, welcome. So what I want to start with is in terms of coming to our program in atmospheric sciences, is that Stony Brook in and of itself, with or without atmospheric sciences, is a great university. And we know this increasingly because we're a big fan, for example, of the governor, who wants us to be the flagship campus for SUNY, and we're in a beautiful location. I can talk a little bit about that first, because we're going to be talking mainly about academics in our program. So just a brief word that it's awesome for those of you not from the area to live on Long Island. We're about halfway out on the island on the North Shore, and it's just a wonderful place to live. I'm not from here. I'm from New England originally, so it's sort of like that, but I think even a little better. So it's a whatever you're interested in, whether it's urban life, you have access to New York City. We have a stop on the Long Island Railroad. I went to Manhattan last weekend, and it took me 80 minutes from Ronkonkoma. And so having access to New York City is just, you can't really overstate how great that is. But if that's not kind of like what you're interested in terms of your non-academic life, you drive 20 minutes east and you have farms, vineyards. And I don't think a lot of people understand that. So, I love to bring my family to the North Shore, the North Fork, for example, out east. So it's just a really, and where we are is kind of in between. So whatever you're interested in is we have that here. So a little bit about our program. So what I want to emphasize for atmospheric science is that there's a few different directions that one could go in the job market. And ultimately, that's what we're geared towards, preparing you for a career. And that could be being a forecaster, That could be both at the National Weather Service or for a private company like, say, AccuWeather, or broadcast, or go into research, which is the direction I went. So we have a lot of facilities that can make that you can access that will really help you prepare for your future career. And of course, getting that academic education is first and foremost, but really gearing you towards your own career is important. So a good example here is what you see in the middle, where we work with our School of Journalism to give students an opportunity to practice in front of the dreaded green screen, to get practice doing broadcast. And you can make your tapes, and then you can send them out to stations. And we've had a lot of success for undergraduate students of ours that have gone on into broadcast meteorology. We also have a lot of research facilities. So for example, one of our faculty members, Pavlos Kolias, has this entire radar facility that undergraduates often work on. We just finished up the last couple of years a project that Brian Coley, one of our division head, was helping to run, funded by NASA, called Impacts, where we were studying Northeast winter storms and launching balloons into them. And so we had a lot of fun with the undergrads launching weather balloons in blizzards, sometimes at like 4 a.m. So it was quite an awesome experience. So another big aspect, I think, of our program is the size of it is really nice. So this is a big university, but the size of the atmospheric science major is more like 10 to 12 students per class. So on the order of 45 or 50 undergraduates total. And so it's of course enough that you have this camaraderie and you have this group, but it's really not overwhelming. So you have a relatively small major and a relatively large university, and I think that's in my opinion anyway, kind of optimal for what a lot of people like, or what they want out of college life. So a big example of that is our meteorology club, which is run by the undergraduates. They do such a good job that honestly, we just kind of stay out of it and let them run it. So I think John can probably talk a little bit more about that. But they have their own budget. They actually just got back from a conference this past weekend, the Northeast Storms Conference, which was in Burlington. And depending on their funding, they usually have money to subsidize other conferences, to get undergraduates meeting people in our field and getting an idea of the different roads you can travel down in your career. So that's one of and they meet every week, every Wednesday they meet, and it's a lot of fun. So for example, this was when they went to the Storms Conference last year, and it's just a really good group of students. And like I said, a lot of these university clubs, you kind of have like a faculty member that's kind of heavily involved, and everyone is so competent that we just kind of stay out of the way, so we don't screw it up. So a lot of fun. I already mentioned School of Communication and Journalism giving those who want to go into broadcast meteorology, which is a big part of meteorology. It's something that a lot of people want to do. Giving them the opportunity to try that out. Maybe you don't like it, but you at least get to get some experience and really set yourself up for a career if that's the direction you want to go in. Being near New York City is really great for having access to internships for any private companies that are based in or have branches in New York City. There's also a National Weather Service forecast office out here on Long Island. It's called the New York City office, but it's actually in Upton, about, I guess, 20 miles east of here. We have News 12 Long Island. So we actually have a current undergraduate who's already filling in for them, doing weather reports. Now that's a little unusual, but Skylar just happens to be awesome. And so she's gotten that opportunity. Skylar, by the way, also had an internship, one of our undergraduates, at NBC New York this past summer. So that's the kind of thing, being near New York that we can take advantage of. And then there's research, which is what I do. And I went into undergraduate thinking I wanted to go into broadcast meteorology, and I realized that's not what I wanted to do. I wasn't really a great forecaster and I wasn't really good at it. So I really liked research, and that's what I wanted to do. So you're stuck with me for the next 45 minutes or so. Very briefly about what I do. I actually study severe storms and tornadoes, mostly using radars, kind of cutting edge technology radars. For example, this is a radar image of a tornado, the same tornado on the left and right. And the one on the right is from a research radar that scanned really, really, really fast using a technology called phased array radar. And so this allows us to learn a lot more about the structure and the intensity of the tornado. So that's the kind of work I do. And what you do is you may have seen shows like Discovery Storm Chasers, that kind of thing. And that's essentially what my research is, taking radars and bringing them ideally to severe storms and tornadoes and collecting really good data to try and better understand tornadoes and how they form. The point is not about me. It's just that we have 12, 13 full-time faculty on the atmospheric science side, and everyone does something different. And we manage to cover basically everything. If you're interested in climate, we have a bunch of people who work on climate. Tropical cyclones, we have Kevin Reed, for example, who works on tropical cyclones. Northeast winter storms, Brian Colley works on nor'easters. So whatever you might be interested in, we have someone here who specializes in that. And if you want an opportunity to do undergraduate research, especially as you get into your junior and senior year, that's when you can go to one, whatever faculty member specializes in that and say, do you have opportunities for undergraduate research? And the answer is usually yes. So where do people end up? Most of our graduates end up in the private sector. So working for, an obvious would be like the Weather Channel or AccuWeather. Less obvious is that a lot of private companies need meteorologists that you wouldn't even think about, because maybe they, for example, the energy sector is a huge one. What are energy demands going to be this winter? What is the seasonal forecast looking like? That type of thing. So there's a lot more jobs in the private sector than you might otherwise think. And then the other 40% either go to graduate school, so which is kind of the first step into getting a career in research, or going into the government sector, the National Weather Service, working for the Weather Service, which of course is a wonderful job. So I wanted to make that quick and go through it because I just really want to give you all the time to ask any questions that you may have. So actually,
Hear from John.
yeah. So John, I didn't want to overstep you, but do you want to talk a little bit about your experience as an undergrad and maybe touch on the Met Club in particular?
Sure. I am a fourth year senior student in the atmospheric science major. My concentration is in meteorology, and I am the treasurer and help run most of the Met Club. So the Meteorology Club, or Met Club for short, is our golden star club for this major. We talk about everything academic wise. We talk about professional conferences, internships, jobs, research opportunities, whether it comes from within the school or externally from other private sector businesses or other schools. We talk about all of it, and we offer usually a lot of opportunities for the students to get involved in any way they want to, whether it be broadcast, forecast, operational research. We have students, and all the seniors, I believe, have completed either an internship or have done research. So everyone gets an opportunity, and almost everyone has gone on a conference. These are very great networking events. Most people have been offered jobs from these conferences. We got to speak to the head of the National Weather Service at the last one. We have gotten to speak to meteorologists that you know by name, whether it be Mike Bettis or some of these really big, huge TV name meteorologists. So the Meteorology Club has helped us tremendously, along with all our professors. We've done research. I've actually, Professor French has dug me out of my car out of the snowstorm after one of our weather when we were launching radar balloons. He had to do that
I
because
forgot about that.
we do work in all conditions, and we really get to do a lot of field work and research, if you would like. So it's a great opportunity, and you really get to do a lot here at Stony Brook.
Yeah, that was
I
one
don't
of
like
our,
the snow that much, but
yeah,
that sounds great.
yeah, that was one of our winter storm deployments. And you're launching balloons a, during the blizzard, and the snow tends to build up on you. So you can get in the parking lot. It's a little tougher to get out. I had forgotten about that. That was a fun day.
So one of the questions everyone always wants to know, no one asked yet, but I'm sure they will, or they're thinking about it, is John, when you were applying to college, because most of our guests are either applying to Stony Brook, in the process of applying, admitted to Stony Brook, or applying in the future. And it's such when you're in the midst of that process, I'm sure you remember because you had to do this during COVID, it's a lot. It's overwhelming at times. It's confusing. You don't necessarily know what you want to study yet, or maybe you do. What was that process like for you?
So I was kind of undecided going into college. I didn't know what career path I really wanted to take. I was interested in business. I was also interested in political science. I was also interested in the weather. Those have been my three main passions since I've been young. And I was wondering, I don't really know what I want to do, but very few schools offer so many majors and as much flexibility as Stony Brook did. So I honestly came in as a Earth and Space Science major, thinking that's kind of where the weather would fall under, and also as a minor or another major in business. And I switched it all around, and now I'm a major in atmospheric science and in political science. Um, I've gotten great opportunities. The professors have been great. It's a competitive, great school with tons tons of opportunities. I really didn't know what I wanted to do, and I only found out what I wanted to do by taking so many classes and having such an opportunity at such a big school. And then our program, it is very small. I know almost all the undergraduates. We also know most of the graduate students at our at SOMAS, and we hang out with them. We go on conferences together. We really try and make it a big, all-inclusive group, and it works out really well. We all get to know each other and we become each other's best friends and do everything together. And it helps us academically because we can share ideas off each other.
That's great. We have a question about field work, and if it's ever, how often classes involve field work, and if they're ever in the city, which is Manhattan, where I'm from. So I can say it's the city.
Yeah. So a few things. One is the research so there is research that incorporates New York City. And it's because in some respects, right, it's very rare, if you have an opportunity, if you're interested in a scientific question, especially regarding urban areas, well, we have one of the biggest in the world. So the type of research that goes on incorporating New York City is a lot of air quality work. So we have a few faculty that do that. Daniel Knopf is one. Pavlos as well does a little bit of that. I think really looking at air quality in urban environments. And I know they have different types of instrumentation to try and under different weather conditions, how urban air quality is changing and how it can be optimized for the better. There is always interest in how small scale weather systems interact with cities. So, I personally have always been interested in how severe storms interact in urban environments. I haven't been studying that specifically yet, but it's something on my list that I would like to do. In terms of classes, so we do try to do hands-on work, incorporate hands-on work into our classes. Increasingly, a big aspect of meteorology is computer modeling and simulations. So I'm just to break it down a little bit. I'm a little bit old school. I'm an observationalist. So like a lot of weather research now is basically you try to simulate something, you try to simulate the real environment. I like to go out and actually collect measurements. So there's modeling and then there's observations. We have people here who do both. And whenever we can, we do try to incorporate that into our classes. So whether it's, bringing students out to the Weather Service to launch a weather balloon, or having them, always looking for an opportunity to get undergraduates involved in our research programs, or giving you the skills for programming and some of the things that are increasingly important in our field. We always try to give as many opportunities as we can to do that. And what helps is, like I said before, that every one of our faculty members has a different expertise. And with 12 or 13 of us, we do manage to cover pretty much everything.
And a question about research opportunities for students, which I think we've kind of already talked about, but I will also say that Stony Brook has the undergraduate research and creative activities office, Eureka, which I'll post the link for, which is kind of a one-stop shop for research and finding research at Stony Brook. I think one of the reasons Eureka exists is that not all departments are as small and dedicated to their students, or don't have that much time to do that. When you have a smaller program like ATM, those opportunities, I think, probably you find more often through faculty, but there are both resources at Stony Brook. Anything else to add about research opportunities for students and access to facilities?
Yeah, so I can give you so I've had some students do undergraduate research for me who were interested in severe storms or tornadoes. And so I like to tell this story because I want to emphasize something that's important here. The two previous students have done undergraduate research for me. The first, she did a great research project. We ended up publishing it. It got published in a peer-reviewed journal. And I think that really helped her get into graduate school. She got her master's degree, thought she wanted to become an emergency manager. And so she went to UNC Charlotte, got her master's, and said, I love research. And now she's a third-year PhD student at Penn State. And so that's like the best possible outcome, which is she got a chance to do research, loved it, and is now going to go into research as her career at a great research, getting her PhD at a great program. I had another student who did research for me and said, I don't really like this project. Do you have something else I can work on? I said, yeah, sure. And I gave him a different project. And he said, I don't like this either. I said, okay. It's like, do you mind? I'm going to go work for somebody else, another faculty member. Maybe I'm just really not into severe weather. And I said, yeah, of course. I mean, this is a learning experience for you. You're not going to like everything you end up trying. And so he ended up, doing research for somebody else, didn't like that either. And I think eventually kind of realized research wasn't for him. That is really valuable. Instead of going to graduate school and spending 2 years and then coming to the same conclusion and saying, well, research was not for me. So a big part of this, and I always tell the undergrads, if you go to some type of research program or an internship and you hate it, that is a learning experience. You've realized what is not for you, and that's very valuable as well. So that's my and that was a learning experience for me too, to kind of realize that, like, that's okay. It didn't work out, and we're both the better for it. So we do, the best, you get to know all the faculty members, and the best thing to do if you have some interest, say, especially you get to your junior year, say, knock on their doors. Do you have any opportunities for undergraduate research, typically for credit? And I'm always happy to come up with a project for an undergraduate to work on.
And had a question about prerequisites or background knowledge needed for the program. And I think that's a really good question, because in admissions, we're probably looking at your academic record differently than when you get to Stony Brook or when you're a college student. So if you're applying as a first year applicant and you're going through the application process in your senior year in high school, at that point it's hard to add courses because you probably are kind of where you are with your high school curriculum. But if you're planning ahead, having a background for admissions purposes, definitely in pre-calculus, if not calculus in high school, is probably one of the top things that are going to help you get into Stony Brook and actually be able to advance more quickly within the major. But Michael, there are courses you can start with even if you don't have calculus, right? Or do you really need the calculus sooner?
Yeah, I mean, I think so. I think the big picture here is, and it's the same at any university that offers atmospheric science in the country, and that's not to sugarcoat the fact that this is a branch of applied physics. I mean, you're taking physics and you're applying it to the atmosphere, and so that can be, I think, a surprise to students at first, not realizing maybe the amount of calculus and physics that a degree requires. But that's the reason why. So I don't know if John remembers this, but anytime there's been a tough exam that I gave, I would tell them, I said, listen, everything is okay. You all did great. You just took an applied physics test, right? That sounds so much more impressive, but it's true. That's what meteorology is. So coming in and having, feeling good and confident about your math skills, and having some exposure to physics, particularly mechanics, kinematics, whatever it's being called, is always a positive. But if you need to take pre-calc and then calc here, yeah, we can make it work. John, maybe you can comment a little bit on what happens before you're taking your meteorology classes.
Sure. So we do have some prerequisites, and you can get some of them fulfilled if you take AP classes in high school. However, you're 100% okay if you don't. You will still take the physics and calculus, and it will line up. So you really need, like, for core, like, major classes, you need 3 years of doing it in a perfect, like, succession. But if you get to start early, that's just even better. I didn't get to start early, so I started doing our actual atmospheric science classes in my sophomore year, and I am all the way through all the classes now in my senior year, and it worked out perfectly. It wasn't too crazy of a course load, and yes, it does very much help. I did have a little bit more of a background in calculus, but you can start from like square one and do pre-calc and then move on to calc 1 and 2 here. In order to get into the first class, I think there might be 2 or 5. I don't remember the exact prerequisites, but I don't think it's anything too crazy where you wouldn't be able to take it either at the same time or a co-requisite as something. It's not too crazy of a advanced class. But as you get up there into your other advanced dynamics classes and all these really the good stuff, learning about all the applied physics, you will already have the background and you'll be well into your academic career, and you should be pretty confident and feel good that you can master the classes even if you've never had any background in either physics or calculus.
That's helpful. And there are many resources at Stony Brook. There's a math learning center, there's a writing lab, there's peer tutoring, there's all kinds of support. So I think a lot of people think, oh, it's a big university. There's 18,000 undergraduate students. I'll never get the help I need. But if you seek out that help, it's available, and you will, be able to and should take advantage, even when you don't think you need help. That's often the time where you should get some help and make sure you're, on the right track.
Yeah. And
yeah.
so, yeah. And the path that John took is pretty normal. So you take your first year is not geared towards atmospheric science. It's geared towards a lot of your, and typically geared towards a lot of the requirements and spending some time with calculus and physics. And to emphasize this, to get a degree in atmospheric science, it's like this at any university in the country. You need calculus and physics. That's the way it is, because so much of what you learn is kind of spoken in that language. But again, we don't want that to be why you don't go into atmospheric sciences. We want to help you if that's something that is a struggle, which a lot of times it is, and that's fine. But yeah, so sophomore year is typically, you would take, in the fall of your sophomore year, you would take my introduction to atmospheric science class. And we don't do any calculus in that class. It's just to get you going. So you can just take calculus as a co-rec, for example, same time as that class. And then you're off and running.
So someone is asking, how competitive is the program? How many students are usually taken? This is a major, I would say that, out of all of the School of Marine and Atmospheric Sciences majors, is probably not one that as many students come into as a first-year student. Like John, many will start in another major and then find atmospheric sciences, probably because you're not taking similarly named courses in high school. And I think that, does impact what you think about in terms of what you're going to study, because you're taking courses in psychology, biology, chemistry, all of these other academic areas. So it is a major that a lot of students will find after they're here. That being said, the major has been attracting more students every year, so the numbers have gone up every year. I would say, how many new freshmen were there in the fall? Maybe 15?
Yeah, so we've been working, I think we like the number 15. It's like it's a little bit, I guess, between 15 and 20 is what we're aiming for, because I like going into, when I teach on Tuesdays and Thursdays, when I teach the sophomores, I like going in there and there's 13 of them, and I love knowing all of their names, kind of, conversing with them, understanding maybe things they might be struggling with, and talking to them about anything they need to talk about. And I don't want to lose that. So yeah, we're trying to get closer to, in the 15 student range. And I think we're pretty much there, it feels like, over the past couple of incoming classes. So we're at, like I said before, it's a really nice number. I think it's perfect.
Yeah. So I think we have a couple questions about, I guess, it's atmospheric and oceanic studies major. So we're getting a lot of questions about the oceanic studies part. What is the difference? How are they the same? What overlaps? Are there different tracks?
Yeah, so the degree, and this can be a little confusing. So the degree is in atmospheric and oceanic sciences, and that's because our part of Stony Brook is called the School of Marine and Atmospheric Sciences. So way before my time here, there was marine sciences, and then there was this kind of small group of atmospheric scientists, and they joined together to make the School of Marine and Atmospheric Sciences. So the degree is atmospheric and oceanic sciences. But if you major in atmospheric science, it's essentially an atmospheric science degree. You have John, do you have to take like one or two class? Do you have to take a class in oceanic science? Like you have to take one or two?
Yes, you do have to take a class in ocean physics, and then some
Okay.
courses do incorporate the oceanic aspect. When we do Python and when we do
Yeah.
MATLAB, they like to incorporate that. And also in remote sensing, they do things with like bathymetry and everything below grade
Okay.
and
Yeah.
in.
So there are some linkages there with oceanic sciences, but for all intents and purposes, you're majoring in atmospheric science, and that's how people will recognize your degree. Um, so it's kind of it's a it's kind of the result of what our school unit is called. So if you come here to major in atmospheric science, you don't have to worry if you're not into the oceanic aspect of it. It's just you take one class in ocean science, and that's cool to have. I would recommend that anyway. I took a class in oceanography as an undergrad, and I'm glad I did. But it's really just an atmospheric science, which is very similar to a meteorology degree. They're essentially the same thing.
And separately, if you are more interested in the oceanic side, we have a marine science major that might be a good fit for you. You could also look at even potentially the Bachelor of Science in Coastal Environmental Studies. There's also a marine vertebrate biology major. So the School of Marine and Atmospheric Sciences, in addition to atmospheric and oceanic sciences and sustainability studies and environmental design policy and planning, has some larger programs in marine science. So we had a question about the Southampton campus. This major, atmospheric and oceanic sciences, I would say has really nothing connecting it to the Southampton campus at all. And the Southampton campus is not a separate program. There is a semester by the sea program at the Southampton campus, and the Southampton Marine Lab is there, but students in marine science or marine vertebrate biology or really any of the majors could theoretically take a class or two at the Southampton campus, but it's not required, and it's not, other than semester by the sea, it's not a standalone program. So I'll post some stuff in the chat for those interested in the Southampton campus and marine science, because I know that can get a little confusing when you're just starting out and trying to figure out all these SOMAS majors. We have a question about, someone asked about air quality in urban environments, like in New York that we talked about, and they want to know if any research at Stony Brook was done on the wildfire smoke from Canada over the summer. Was that?
So yeah, so that's not the type of work I do, but I'm almost positive because I think what they've done is they have some instrumentation at various parts in the city where they're the type of instrumentation that's kind of constantly running or runs for weeks or months at a time. So I'm almost positive that we have folks here who were taking measurements during that really out of this world period when that was happening, and that's the type of stuff that um, air quality folks look at that are meteorologists. Just how that smoke can travel so efficiently in weather patterns. It's really fascinating. Not the type of work I do, but I'm almost positive that we were collecting measurements. Folks in our department were collecting measurements during that.
Yeah, I think Professor Knopf was, and I'm in his air pollution class right now, so he was
Oh,
talking
great,
about
great,
that.
yeah.
And Professor Mack, he is hopefully going to do a project next year on local and the tri-state areas, specifically the urban area, air quality and things about that. He has a project that has been delayed, but he's going to be working on that with urban air quality. And but Professor Knopf has tons of stuff that he did over the summer, and he showed us some of the wildfire research and why it was like why the sky was like this crazy color. So he explained all of that to us and showed us how they got all the information and how it relates to even the atmosphere chemistry and the atmosphere itself.
So I just want to also, because there was another question about how the Southampton program works for different age groups. The Southampton program does have MAR 104, which is a summer course that's open to pre-college students. So usually, I guess, rising seniors or seniors pre first year in college. So that's something that if you're interested in kind of an immersive 1 or 2 weeks, I don't remember, a summer program at Southampton with the residential option, you could look into that. But otherwise, you really wouldn't be at the Southampton campus, as I said, unless you were doing Semester by the Sea specifically. And I put in the chat for you a link to a recording from the fall that we did. It's called Experiential Education in SOMAS, and it had a focus on Semester by the Sea, as well as like the scuba diving and all of the other kind of fun stuff, as well as the MAR and MVB faculty session that we did recently. So definitely check that out if you're interested in those programs. And then we had a question about just kind of following up on, we had talked about that entering as a freshman, it sounds like you're not in the program. You're in the program if you're accepted into the major. It's just that you need foundation coursework before you're taking the bulk of your courses, as you know, John and Michael said, just to make sure that you have that kind of really strong foundation beyond your high school curriculum, which I think is a good distinction, because it's, even though you may be in, you know, advanced honors, advanced placement, or IB curriculum courses and doing really well, it's still very different. Your high school courses are going to be very different than what you're taught at Stony Brook. Okay, we had a question, let me see if I can find it, that came in about the likelihood of getting a job straight out of college. How does it work? Do most you talked about grad school versus the private sector. What's typical?
Yeah. So obviously this is really important. Like I said before, we want our students to be ready for the job market. So in terms of it, so it depends on what segment you want to go into. So for a career in research, typically a career in research, most people go into research have at least a master's degree. So if you're interested in research, you should think about graduate school, which means things that are important for getting into graduate school are that you have done well academically. Typically, you know, a GPA that's higher than 3.0, and this is just very roughly speaking, you know, have done okay in your math and physics, because graduate school is two things. It's doing a research project and it's more classes. So, you know, graduate schools that are going to accept you, they want to know that you've done okay academically as well, in addition to your own research. And graduate schools are also going to, increasingly, they want to know that you've at least tried undergraduate research, so that, you know, that you think you're okay with it, that it's something that you want to do. You know, and that was my story before about someone who worked for me who just didn't like it. And so that's, you don't want to do that when you go off to graduate school, realize, oh, I don't like this at all. For the other aspects, so going into forecasting, if you want to go into broadcast meteorology, it's really not necessary. And so, you know, it's something we emphasize for our undergraduates who want to go into broadcast, is really getting them into that journalism class and getting, so first of all, using our program to get the background knowledge. And also, you know, we have classes that are, especially their senior year, geared towards forecasting and getting you experience, so that you can be competitive in broadcast. The reality of broadcast is you usually have to start out at a pretty low market. I went to school with someone who's now on the air in New York City, and he started in Beckley, West Virginia, and just worked his way up, you know, and ended up in Syracuse and then eventually in New York City. So that's the reality of broadcast. It's more of putting your time in to increase your market size. If you want to go forecast in National Weather Service, it's very competitive, increasingly competitive, and increasingly having a master's degree is helpful. Not required at all. But those who get a master's degree tend to be higher up on the list. That being said, we had a student a few years ago now, Julia, who got into the Weather Service right out of our program. She is in Tucson, I believe, the Arizona, yeah, one of the Arizona offices. So we're very proud of that. If you want to go into be a forecaster in the private sector, typically a bachelor's degree should be sufficient. And again, having some type of experience, being a confident forecaster and having those skills, having good people skills, of course, college always helps with that. Important as well. So depending on what area you go into, determines, is just getting a degree from Stony Brook, a bachelor's degree sufficient for, I would say, everything except research. Typically, yes. And then if you want to go into research, it's usually a master's degree at least. And so again, we are looking for you. We are trying to set you up to succeed. So whether it's internships, figuring out what you like. A lot of students, I was one of them. It was sophomore year. I didn't like forecasting, and I was like, what am I going to do? And I did okay academically. I did better in math and physics than I give myself credit for. And I said, all right, I'll try graduate school. And I loved it. So just trying to get all of those students to find out what they like. We actually have some students, they don't actually go into a career in meteorology. They figure, I like meteorology. We have a lot of students who end up in environmental science careers, for example, which is kind of tangentially related. But having a degree in meteorology is not good just for meteorology, because you're exposed to a lot of math, a lot of physics, a lot of science. Employers in and outside of meteorology love to see that. So it's not just meteorology as well. We have students who go in to a lot of environmental type jobs, like air quality, for one, I know is a big one that our graduates go into. So yeah, a lot of opportunities.
John, I don't think you talked about this yet, but the process of kind of how do you get research or get an opportunity or, find an internship? It all sounds great, like, oh, we help you. But when you're the student and you're approaching, your professor, like, is that intimidating? Are the faculty approachable? What's your take on that situation?
Well, I think it's actually very easy. We are very thankful. We have Nancy Black as our undergraduate, I think, advisor. I'm not too sure what her exact role is, but she puts out a thing called a Wednesday Wave every Wednesday, and it will give us research opportunities within the department and externally. Will give us internship opportunities within the department and externally. Through the meteorology club, professors will say they have these research projects going on and ask if any students would like to volunteer or even get credit for it, any internships available. Through Meteorology Club, I got an internship. We have people who've done research with almost every single professor. All the professors are amazing. Not in an informal way, but we almost know all our professors on a first name basis. They're very friendly with us. It just really works out great. We all are friendly. We get to speak more than weather. It's like having your own little family. We do outside activities, like when the school has extracurricular activities, we do a boat launch thing where we will have some of our professors cheer us on or watch us and incorporate our major into it. So we really get all involved and all in to our major. But with that, it becomes very easy to get an internship opportunity, a research opportunity, and even job opportunities at the conferences. Over this past weekend, almost every single one of the members who went that are seniors either got a job offer or got an opportunity. And we really think it helps based on how versatile our program is, whether it be in broadcast, whether it be in forecasting or in research. Almost everyone as a senior has had an offer into a field in meteorology so far this year, which is good.
That's exciting. So we have a question about the New York Climate Exchange. You know, it is, we had this question in a couple other sessions too, like, when can we be a part of it and how will we be a part of it? But it is a couple years away. But we're happy about it, but it's kind of in its infancy, so to speak. Any further notes?
Yeah, I mean, it's really exciting. So I'm on the weather side. I don't do a ton of climate work. Well, I don't really do any climate work. I'm on the weather side. But it's just phenomenal that this is going to be that Stony Brook is going to be involved in it. And so there's a lot of, my understanding anyway, is that there's a lot of planning going on right now. There's a lot of kind of developing how it's going to work, to what degree Stony Brook is involved. And yeah, I think that there, of course, is going to be a natural link to School of Marine and Atmospheric Sciences with the climate exchange. What that's going to look like, what part how we can contribute to it, I think is still up in the air, but it's very, very exciting, and we're all just kind of waiting and seeing how that is all going to shake out.
And so someone commented on your response earlier and said, so basically I can get a job anywhere with broadcast meteorology. You still have to do well at Stony Brook though, right?
Yeah. So in terms of broadcast, when it comes to your GPA, your grades, the reality is that more important for graduate school than some other jobs? Yeah, probably, because for graduate school, they're looking for you to take more classes and they want to know that you'll do okay in them. Whereas when you go into broadcast meteorology, you're not going to be taking exams. They want to know that you understand meteorology, that you understand atmospheric science, that you're a capable forecaster. And there's another aspect of it, which is that you're a good communicator. I am not. I think I know meteorology pretty well, and but you put me in front of a green screen, I suspect it would be disastrous. So there's other skills there as well. So yeah, we want all of our undergraduates to do well academically, and that doesn't mean that you need straight A's. And we're there to, I understand for anyone, some of the material can be difficult. That's just, like I said, it's a branch of applied physics, and it's like that anywhere in the country. We're there to help you. We want you to do as well as possible. And if that means that you're getting B's and C's, okay. We want you to do the best that you can do and set yourself up for a career. That does not require you to have a 4.0 GPA. It just doesn't. Of course, we want you to do well, but we also want you to be, getting that experience in front of the green screen and setting yourself up to do well in your career.
And John, a question for you about the meteorology club. Do you have to be in the atmospheric science major to be part of the club, or do you have non-major participants?
We have non-major participants. It's not at all required to be a major. We have people who just have an interest in the weather. We have to do tabling events on campus. So Stony Brook has so many clubs, it's actually unbelievable. Anything you can almost possibly imagine, we have a club for. And people just see us at like our student engagement events or at a tabling event, and they come up and say, "Oh, I like the weather," and they come down. They learn about the weather. We talk about the weather. They get to see if they're really interested in the weather. It doesn't have to be just a career path. It could just be a hobby, a passion, and they come down, have a great time. We talk about the weather. Some people just love, oh, is it going to snow? What's the forecast? We do produce a forecast each week. We're heavily involved in social media. If you want to get involved on our on-campus radio station, as Professor French said, we have a great broadcast show that we do called See Will Storm or Not. Um, we really try and get involved in any way possible because the weather has such a outlying effect. Sometimes students will have opportunities to explore the relationship between like the sports events and whether there's like outside how the weather will impact outside participation in whether it be spectators or the sports. So the weather intertwines a lot of things at Stony Brook, and we try and give both the department and the club the most opportunities for people to experience everything within our field.
And let me just add, it works both ways as well, because we had a transfer student into my class for the sophomores this semester, and he joined the major, and he was a chemistry major. And I think, it could work the other way too, where you come to Stony Brook and you think, whether it's just kind of a hobby for me. And then you say, you know what, this is actually what I want to do. And so we do get a fair number of transfers with people saying, you know what, I'm in college, I want to give this a try. This is my passion. And weather is something that a lot of people are fascinated in. So we tend to have majors who are very enthusiastic, and I know very few meteorologists who are like, you know what, my job stinks. It's just the fact that people are fascinated by the weather, and there's that always gives it a good vibe. It's a good vibe with the students because everyone's excited. They're excited to learn about the weather.
Yes, and everyone's affected by it, so you have no choice. Is a background in computer science or coding useful?
John, you want to take this one first?
Sure. So it definitely is useful. However, I came in with zero coding knowledge besides a basic high school level course, and they will teach you. Um, it's interesting. Of course, it's like learning a new language per se, but they teach you from baby steps, from typing like print, like hello world to like all the way to your advanced modeling and everything else. We learn in two different languages. I think you don't have to, but normally most students learn in MATLAB and Python. Python usually is the preferred one. We further out research and other classes utilize Python, but it is useful. However, if you don't have any experience, you sure will get it through our classes. And that is a really big part going forward in the meteorology major, and even combining it with AI and other things, which will just amplify our understanding of meteorology and further the research.
Yeah, coding, and it's very important for all of the sciences. So I code in Python, for example. So we teach our Python class is, I guess, 4 or 5 years old now, because we saw that that's where meteorology was going, which is people typically program in Python. So now we have a dedicated atmospheric science class for Python. So we are trying to, we work hard to make sure our students are getting the coding skills that they're going to need, whether they go in, particularly if they go into research, but also increasingly environmental science fields and anything having to do with research. So so we do try to have our curriculum geared towards what's being used in the field. And so that's our Python, and a little bit of MATLAB too, which I know John, like me, probably prefers Python.
So I know this is surprising, but it's already 8 o'clock, so the hour flew by. We had some excellent questions, and obviously, thank you both so much. This was so informative, and I know that our guests and Lauren and Cameron and I definitely learned a lot. Any kind of farewell message for
Yeah,
our
please. Yeah, thanks everyone for your time. We want you to come to our program. It's a growing program, but it's not growing too much. It still has that small town feel to it, and I think it's really wonderful. If you have any questions at all, you can reach out to me. My email address is a little annoying because it has my middle initial in it, so it's michael.m.french@stonyBrook.edu. You can just Google me; it'll come up. I'd be happy to answer any of your questions or even meet with you. So I hope this was helpful for you and your decisions. I know it's always hard whether you've been admitted and you're choosing whether to come here or not, or you're a junior and you're looking towards next year. I went through this process. I know how stressful it is. It wasn't that long ago. So good luck, and you can always reach out to me, or I'm sure you could reach out to John as well.
Yes,
Yeah.
and to Amanda as well. Yes, John.
Yeah, you can reach out to us at sbuweather at gmail.com, or you can reach out to me personally. My email is just john.tafe@stonybrook.edu. Or if you can get in any way contact, we have had prospective students come to our meteorology club, learn more a little bit about it. We're super inviting. We have a great time. And all the students here really, we do love being in our majors. So if you have any questions, I've lived on campus. We have people who are totally involved in all other aspects of Stony Brook, and they can give you the lowdown, all the information, and how much we really enjoy our time here. So always feel free to ask any questions or get more involved, because it's really important to know about the school before you go, because then you can realize, oh, I really don't like it or like it. But in most of our cases, we all really do like Stony Brook here, especially for atmospheric science.
Well, that was the perfect summation to our program tonight. Thank you both so much. And to all of our guests, we hope to see you on campus. Bye, everybody. Thanks.
Thank you.